All right, folks, it's time to put my money where my mouth is, and let's get a name on this QB1. We've talked about Max. We've talked about Connor. I have had time to go back and watch the spring game again, so I'm ready to tell you where I think this decision would lie if it was made today. So let me just recap these guys real quick. I think I noticed a few other things too when I was watching that spring game one more time, because I've got a few concerns about each one, but I've got a few upsides for each one. Starting with Max. Upside, guy's really poised. He's got a lot of experience, and that leads him to be in the know, which puts him in a great position to be a leader. Downside, though, is he probably doesn't quite have the scrambling ability that Connor has, so that's a little bit more of a comparison aspect as well. And his accuracy is probably, I wouldn't call it bad, I just wouldn't say it's quite as good. A couple things to consider, though, that I hadn't really thought a whole lot about previously. But one thing to kind of weave into this as well is that Petrino and how he's going to be working this offense. He is going to have a lot of motion. We have mentioned this, but how he uses the quarterback with these motions and how he looks like he's going to run this offense, I think is going to be a bit more revealing to how the quarterback's going to be chosen. So let's take a step over to the other side real quick. Let's talk about Connor. He's a bit more novice. He didn't look like that against LSU, though. He looked fairly seasoned, and he looked really quite comfortable against Ole Miss, especially early on. So he looked like he wanted to go quick. They looked like they were ready to go quick. Petrino's going to want to go quick. So that does bode well for him. Now, Connor is probably has a bit better of an accuracy situation, but he's going to be a step behind just with the comfortability aspect, where he is with running the offense. Does he know where to go with things, his checks and his reads? And, you know, to a degree, they can, if they both spend the same amount of time in the film room, you would have to think that Max, by virtue of having more playing time experience and that sort of thing, would probably end up performing better. And that's what you want. And what we're looking for, I think, again, is an offense that's going to go out and win games, going to get 35 points, 40 points, hope, maybe 50. The sky's the limit almost at this point, I hope. So who does that lend itself to being chosen? Now, when I watched that spring game, it looked like to me that Connor was forcing the ball a fair amount. Of course, we're running very vanilla, very bland offense. It's like 2 left, 2 right, tight end and a running back, and let's go. It looked like he was staring these down. It didn't look like he was going to his other options very much. But then he would get in a situation where he'd have to scramble a bit, or they'd get him outside the pocket. And when they did that, he really started to shine quite a bit. And he looks like he wants to work out of the pocket. It looks like he's going to be ready to make things happen with his feet, but he's also accurate enough that he can, when he gets in that spot, he tends to want to look downfield and in other options. Whereas when they're running a play, I can't tell so much if he's reading the DB and determining whether or not that's the place to go, or if he's read the defense already and he's just decided, well, I've got a one-on-one matchup over here, so I'm kind of gonna go here anyways, no matter what. That's a little bit more difficult to determine, but he looks really comfortable getting outside of the pocket. And I do think that's going to be something that Petrino's going to want to do quite a bit. It's going to be a lot of motion, a lot of misdirection, and a lot of just moving the ball quickly. But for Max, when we do all this motion, somebody's going to have to know what to do with it. And Max has got the ability to take that information and then do something with it. He should know and should have a really good firm grasp about where he needs to go whenever he sees the DB not coming with the guy in motion and that we're in some sort of zone coverage and where the holes are going to be. But of course, that still lends itself to the wide receivers are going to need to know where to go too. So it's going to get back to a leadership standpoint. Who can get the wide receivers to go where they need to go? Who's going to be practicing with these guys and who's leading them? We know that upper hand is probably in Max's corner. It can be in Connor's corner, but as I was saying, in comparison to Johnny, I think it gets itself into Connor's corner more so when he channels that ability to be Johnny. Johnny had so much fire, and when Connor looks, if he can get himself into that mode, and I just don't see that personality type within Max, and that's why I default it to Connor. And he does look like the type to me that's got some of that passion there. I think once he moves some of the processing of the offense into the background where it's just happening on the fly and he doesn't have to commit so much intention to it, he'll be operating more in the instinctual side of things, and then he can really channel that. So where are we at in that process for each one of these guys is probably the biggest question. And right now, looking off that spring game, you had some really good throws from Max. There was one great throw downfield to Anias, and we've been wanting to go downfield, something we've been harping on for 2 years, and he's able to do it. We've had some knocks on him about his accuracy, and they both had some of their accuracy issues, I would say, in the spring game. But Max had some really fine throws as well, and both of them threw really well to the edge of the field, down the field. Connor in particular as well. So man, this is a neck and neck race in my opinion. I feel really good about either one of them, to be quite frank. I really do. Each one has their own regiment that they're going to offer, but what I'm thinking here on this one is I am thinking, oh man, now I got myself going even another direction. Okay, so hear me out. Do we have a defense that's good enough that we can afford to go with a little bit more of the sure shot? Who do you think's more of the sure shot? I'm going to default that one over to Max. I'm going to give Max a little bit more of the sure shot, meaning I don't think Max is the sure shot to be able to go out and get us 40 every game, or many games, to be quite honest. I think and I'm going to put points on this so you can kind of know, instead of percentages, I'm going to put a points range. I think Max is good for 22 to 26 points about 80% of the time. I think there'll be some times when we're going to go lower than that. I think he has the possibility of times that he will go higher than that. I think his upper end is probably somewhere right around the 40 to 42 range. His lower end, I think his lower end actually could be 0.3. It could be somewhere in there. I think it's a possibility for him to get shut down. Okay. Connor. I think Connor's range is somewhere in the neighborhood of 26 to 35. I think you've got to. I don't think the low end of that is any higher than 26. Will there be times when it's lower? Sure, certainly there definitely could be. Again, I think it's 80% of the time he's going to be between 26 and 35 points. And so really what this is to say is I think Connor has the bigger range of motion, and his low range is a little bit closer to Connor's, although his high range is much higher. I'm sorry, Connor's low range is much closer to Max's, but his high range is much higher than Max's. So I think he's going to have more volatility. So somebody was asking me in the comments, what did you major in, Central? And my major was math when I was at A&M. So you can kind of imagine I kind of like talking about these numbers and thinking about things in this way. So he has a higher volatility in my mind at the moment, but he's got much higher upside to be had. So if we're thinking maybe our D is not going to be as good, then who would you want to go with? Well, I think in that situation it's obvious. If your defense is not going to be as good as advertised, or going to be, for instance, a top 30 defense, and you're going to have like a bottom 70 defense, we had this last year, then you probably need the most potent offense you can get. And so that means you need to take a chance at least on going with Connor. If your defense is as advertised and it's top 30, top 20 defense, then you could stand to give Connor another year of maturation. Go with Max, who's got the experience. It's going to give you a pretty steady outcome each time, and you're a little bit on the safer side. And you could be limiting your upper win total, right? We got to play Alabama. We got to play Tennessee. We got to play maybe an up-and-coming Miami team. We got to play an LSU team that's getting better by the year. Ole Miss is always a high-powered situation. Mississippi State, we can't seem to win. Likewise, if we're only scoring in the 10 to 20 point range with our offense, we bring the other teams like App State into the equation of the ability to be able to beat us. That's what happened at App State. We're going to have to hold them to 10 points essentially to beat them. And we didn't do it that time. We held them under 20, which is a fine job, maybe not quite against App State. But our offense just couldn't go up and make the other side of that. Contrast that on the flip side, though. If you've got your offense that's consistently getting up near the 40-point range, it's going to be pretty difficult for the other team to outscore you. I mean, I can't understand what the Big 12 teams have been after, the logic that's behind scoring 40 points a game and approaching the game in that manner. And of course, it comes with its faults, which eventually you're going to have to hold the other team. Now we've got a defense that can get 7 or 8 punts a game. I mean, you've got a real good shot of being able to score more points than the other team, unless your offense is anemic, which ours has been. But if you're getting 35, 40 points in a game, you're really in your wheelhouse. So which is it? Do we need to take a chance on a quarterback, or do we not need to take a chance on the quarterback? I think that's where this decision is to be made. Or is it? Maybe it's not. Maybe we got bigger things. Maybe we got bigger aspirations going on here, right? Because if you're thinking about, well, depending on my defense, I'm going to choose my quarterback, and if our defense is not so good, I'm going to have to go this way. You're already thinking in a probably 8-4, 9-3 mindset, to be quite honest. So if you've got the D and you want to go out and make a splash, then which quarterback should you choose? You should choose the one that gives you still the highest upside. Connor's not that volatile either. So now you see where I'm leaning. I think right now I'm going to put this 60-40 in Connor's corner. Okay? He's got the upside. He's got a lot of abilities to get outside the pocket, make plays in a lot of different ways. That it's not to say that Max can't do those. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that who's got the better ability to be able to do those kinds of things and get to and do what we really need them to do in this offense. I think Connor does. I think Petrino's going to have this thing rolling in such a way that even if Connor doesn't have the best grasp of the offense and exactly where he needs to go, we can get him some easy enough throws and in situations where he can still be really highly effective. And you could say, well, Max could do that too as well. Right, sure. But once he starts moving along in that spectrum of knowing that offense, man, now you're talking about lightning in a bottle. And lightning in a bottle with the defense I think that we're getting ready to field, you've got a recipe for success. big situation that could come. So I hope it is as advertised. I hope it is this way, and I hope everything plays out this way. Of course, we still got a lot of camp to get through, and games, and who knows what's going to play out during the year, injuries, mono, other such things. But if this team's got their mind right, and I think that this is the place to choose this. I think it now is the time. You hear me on this? Now is the time. So we don't have time to be going out and saying, oh, what? We're just going to make sure we're playing it safe, and maybe we can get a few games here and there. No, I'm over that. I hope you are too. I think most of us are. I think we're over that. And I think because we're going into this year, and I think we've got at least a 55-45 situation in Connor's favor, because he ended the season, he ended on good terms, and really things were looking on the up and up, like he was competent in what he was doing. And since he's going in with the lead, think about the situational circumstance that everything is going on. I think he's the choice for our team in 2023. Tell me what you think. What do we need else? What else do we need to think about in consideration of this? Where do you think Jimbo might go? Let me know. Let me know. Please do all the more. I can't wait to find out. Camp is just little less, right at about a month away. So we're going to start finding out a lot of this stuff soon. Make sure you like and subscribe. Don't forget, I got the fall preview coming up. Is one of the biggest previews of the year for me that's coming up, and I'll go through each game by game. Tell you what I think on each one and where we're at, and where things are going to be projected. You know what I think we need to do to get to the SEC championship, so it's going to have a lot to do with this preview to illustrate how this season I think will play out. So hopefully 2023 is a season of Maroon Kool-Aid in and out. So like and subscribe. We'll see you back for that conversation coming soon. All right, thanks and gig 'em.